Design and Technology. Unit 1, Module 3. Lesson 7. Test the prototype. Testing methods to include expert appraisal, comparison test, field trial, performance testing, materials testing, test using simulation software, user observation, user trials, expert appraisal. The Google Sites Forum for Design detailed and relevant testing methods that generate data to measure the success of the solution, presented expert appraisal as follows. A person considered an expert in the use of similar products is presented with the solution, given time to interact with the solution and then interviewed on aspects of its success. The expert has particular knowledge and skills that allow him or her to make judgments on the success of the solution. The expert may be the client. Comparison test. The Google site presented a test comparison of their project through data collected from using a survey. Using a survey for comparison testing of prototypes allows the designer to add specific questions that are targeted towards measuring the quality of the prototype. Field trial. The Google site presented a description of field trial as follows. A test of the performance of a solution under the conditions and situation in which it will be used. For example, an interactive information point, developed in HTML, for a museum exhibit may be tested by the exhibit visitors in the museum, structured as a user trial or user observation. Performance testing. The Google site presented a description of performance testing as follows. The performance of a solution is tested under the conditions in which it would normally be used. Quantitative data is collected through a variety of tests such as destructive tests assessing impact strength or flammability. Cyclic tests. Measurement of physical properties such as weight and size. Time tests for web pages to load. Ease of navigation through an interactive story, game, or website. Materials testing. Materials testing is usually conducted in a lab. The equipment used in a material testing lab can measure physical and chemical properties. Test using simulation software. Simulation software is an effective way to test prototype acceptance. This virtual method of testing allows for a feel of participation without being in the required location of the intended use of the final product. User observation. The Google site presented a description of user observation as follows. The user is presented with the solution and is set a task to achieve with little or no guidance. The user's interaction with the solution is observed and recorded. User trials. The Google site presented a description of performance testing as follows. The user is presented with the solution and guided on how to use it. The user is asked questions as he or she interacts with the solution or is given a survey to complete. User trials may include focus groups. The design of interview or survey questions needs to be targeted to draw out responses that assess the solution against the specification. Determine suitability and functionality. The determination of suitability and functionality can only be fully acquired while testing. As the saying goes, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Fitting, immersing or test driving the prototype are some ways for accomplishing this goal. Collect user feedback. Collecting data from the user feedback is the beginning point for iteration. Knowing what works or doesn't work will help identify what changes may or may not need to be adjusted, eliminated, or changed. Analyze feedback. This is the stage of design where the decision of passing of iterating a prototype is done. The data collected from feedback will guide the designer in what needs to be done. Refine prototype as required. This stage is determined if after analyzing the prototype, the designer have quality and quantity information to refine the prototype as required.